My name is Paige Whitaker. I'm 35, and at my grandfather's while reading my family handed my sister a check for $6.9 million, then slid a single dollar bill across the table to me. My mother laughed when she saw my face. My father said, "Go earn your own." My mother leaned in and told the entire room, "Some kids just don't measure up." Lauren waved her check. My parents toasted with the lawyer's bad coffee. I let them laugh. I picked up the dollar and said, "Thank you." Because I knew what was still sitting in the lawyer's folder, and they didn't. One more document, a letter my grandfather wrote in his own hand and asked to be read out loud. 40 seconds after the lawyer opened it, my mother stopped laughing for good. Welcome back to Lineage of Lies. If you've ever been handed a dollar while someone else got the millions, stay right here. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. For years before that dollar, I was a high school teacher. Then my grandfather fell. Earl Whitaker owned a hardware and lumber store that had stood on Main Street for 50 years, Whitaker Hardware. When I was a girl, I did my homework on the counter while he cut keys and gave kids penny candy. That store was the steadiest thing in my childhood. Pop got sick. Somebody had to keep the lights on and keep him safe. I didn't call a family meeting. I gave notice at my school, packed my car, and drove back to the cottage behind his farmhouse. My mother told her friends I'd thrown my career away. Neither parent asked what it actually took. Whitaker Hardware opened at 6 every morning, the way it had since 1974. I became the one who unlocked it, lights on, coffee going. Then I'd check on Pop, then back to the store. One morning he said, "You know how I'll always know who this place belongs to? Whoever opens it every morning." I thought he was being sentimental. He wasn't. He was telling me something plainly, and I was too tired to hear the weight of it. His disease progressed. I called my parents, my sister. My mother said, "We can't just drop everything, honey." Lauren said she'd try to come up when things settled down. Things never settled down for Lauren. So it was me. What I resented wasn't the work, it was the way my family treated my showing up as proof I had less of a life to interrupt. My parents visited 3 times a year, and they never asked how Pop was sleeping. They asked about the land. My father stared at the 40 acres and said, "You know what that acreage is worth now with the new highway?" My mother added, "Earl, have you thought about what happens to all this?" She meant the money. Pop just said, "I've thought about everything, Lorraine. Don't you worry." And he winked at me. I didn't understand the wink yet. Lauren came around more, but only when she needed money. Every few months, a crisis, a number, a check from Pop. As she'd leave, she'd call the store, this dusty little money pit. The store had just cut a key for a single mother locked out at midnight, and my sister called it a money pit while pocketing Pop's money. I said something neutral. I always said something neutral. But I remember thinking, you see a money pit. I see the only thing this family ever built worth keeping. Pop heard her through the open door. He said, "Money runs through some people like water through a sieve. You hold things. That's different." Another clue I missed. The full insult came at Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I'd cooked and given Pop his medications between the turkey and the pie. Lauren was bragging about a promotion that probably never happened. Then my mother swung the spotlight to me. "And how's the little store, Paige?" She made a pitying sound. "It's such a shame. You had a real profession and you threw it away to play shopkeeper. I love you, honey, but some kids just don't measure up." Nobody defended me. I sat there with the taste of my own cooking in my mouth and understood how my mother measured a human being: dollars, titles, the story you could tell at a party. I didn't argue. I just thought, one day the math is going to get corrected. I had no idea Pop had already done the correcting. That winter, on a clear evening, Pop got direct. "When I'm gone, they're going to come for the store. They don't see what it is. They see what it's worth. It's been you for 4 years. If I make sure it goes to you the right way, will you keep it open? I said yes. And I added, Pop, we have to do it so airtight that nobody can claim you weren't yourself when you decided. I knew what my family would do if he simply left me the store in a will. They'd say he was sick, that I'd manipulated a vulnerable old man. The truth doesn't defend itself. You have to build a wall around it while you still can. We went to a lawyer named Howard Lind. I sat in the waiting room so nobody could say I'd whispered in his ear. Over the next 2 months, they structured a sale, a buy-sell agreement. Pop sold Whitaker Hardware and the 40 acres to me at a fair appraised value, 2 years before anyone sat in that conference room. I signed a promissory note. I am still paying it. It was not a gift. It was a debt I took on willingly, with my 6 in the mornings as the down payment. Pop's doctor certified in writing that same day that he understood the transaction completely. The wall was built high. When it was done, Pop shook my hand. Now they can scream all they want. It's done and it's clean. I didn't tell a soul. If I'd announced it while Pop was alive, they'd have pressured him on his bad days. Silence was the only way to protect him and the promise. It was the loneliest 2 years of my life. But I'd learned from watching my family that the people who talk the most usually have the least, and the ones who hold their cards tend to keep their houses. Near the end, Pop gave me an old tin box. When Howard reads the will, you bring this. Don't open it before then, and don't let them see it until the lawyer's done. Promise me you'll let him read my letter out loud, all of it, in front of everyone. I promised. He smiled. Insurance. And the truth. He died 11 days later in his own bed, with me holding his hand and the store key in my pocket. The last thing he said was, "Did you get the dock light fixed?" I told him I had. He nodded, satisfied. I broke my promise a little. 2 days before the reading, I opened the tin box. 3 things. The buy-sell agreement, signed and dated 2 years prior. The doctor's medical certification. And a handwritten note on torn store paper, in Pop's shaky script. The store stays with whoever opens it every morning. I changed nothing on my deathbed. I changed it while I could still drive. Anybody who calls that manipulation never once made the drive themselves. Love, Pop. I sat at my kitchen table, and something that had been crooked my whole life finally went straight. The night before the reading, my father called. Paige, I know you did all of it. I couldn't watch him get old. So I'm asking you, don't fight your mother tomorrow. Let it be easy. He could see what I'd done. He just couldn't let that knowledge cost him anything. I said, I'm not going to fight anyone, Dad. But I'm not going to lie about what's true either. The reading was the following week. My mother cornered me in the parking lot. Promise me you'll let your sister have this. You've always been so strong. Just let her have her moment. The oldest move in the family, tell me I'm a failure, then tell me I'm so strong I don't need anything. I said, I won't make it hard, Mom. I meant it completely. I was going to let a folder full of paper do what 2 years of dinners never could. Howard Lind's office smelled of old paper and lemon polish. My family arranged themselves across the table, my mother certain, my father beside her, Lauren glowing, an aunt and uncle as witnesses. I set the tin box at my feet and folded my hands. Howard opened the folder. The liquid assets, $6.9 million. Went to my parents and Lauren. Then he read, to my granddaughter, Paige Whitaker, the sum of $1. He slid a crisp dollar bill across the table. My mother laughed, delighted. Lauren laughed too. My mother leaned across and savored it one last time. I told you, honey. Some kids just don't measure up. My father added, go earn your own. I picked up that dollar. I folded it once, put it in my pocket, and said calmly, thank you, Howard. I let them have their victory lap, because Howard was already reaching for the second envelope. Before we conclude, Mr. Whitaker left a letter to be read aloud in full. My mother waved a gracious hand, still glowing. She thought it would be a sentimental goodbye. Howard put on his glasses and began, and within 3 sentences, the temperature of the room changed. To my family. By now, Howard has told you about the money. I left it to you because I love you. But the store was never the money. 2 years ago, while I could still drive and in my right mind, I sold Whitaker Hardware and the 40 acres to my granddaughter, Paige, for a fair price on a promissory note she is still paying. My doctor examined me that same day and certified I knew exactly what I was doing. It is not in this will because it was never mine to will. It was already hers, bought and paid for, morning by morning, for 4 years. I gave Paige $1 not as an insult, but so no one could say I forgot her. The truth is, she'd already earned the only thing that mattered. The store stays with whoever opens it every morning. For 1 full second, nobody moved. Then my mother shot out of her chair. That's not possible. She manipulated him. This is theft. We'll fight it. My father said nothing. I looked at her and said the words I'd been saving for 2 years. He wasn't manipulated, Mom. He was paying attention. Howard calmly laid the documents on the table. The buy-sell agreement, signed and notarized. The medical certification. Mrs. Whitaker, this is a closed sale with contemporaneous medical proof. It is not a will to contest. My uncle picked up the medical letter and let out a low whistle. Well. Looks like she measured up after all. Lauren burst into furious tears. So I get money and she gets the whole business? That's not fair. There it was. They'd known all along the store was the real fortune. My mother turned to me one last time. Go earn your own, she repeated bitterly. I met her eyes. I did, Mom. Every morning at 6 for 4 years. I stood up first. For my entire life, I'd been the one who stayed late. This time, I stood first. The money is yours. Pop wanted you to have it. The store is mine. It was a sale, and I'm still paying for it. I'm not getting rich, I'm getting up at 6. If any of you ever want to come by, you're welcome as family. But the mornings are mine, and so is the name over the door. And nobody at this table gets to call me a failure again. I walked out into the ordinary daylight, a folded dollar in my pocket and a 50-year promise on my shoulders. In the months that followed, my mother consulted 2 lawyers. Both told her the sale was airtight. The contest never came. Lauren took her cash, but something shifted. She called me one night and asked, what was he like at the end? I told her about the flood of '78, the church social, the dock light. She cried the real kind. We're not close, but we're honest now, and honest is a foundation you can build on. My father started coming by the store. He doesn't say much, but sometimes he picks up a broom and sweeps. I let him, because I think it's the only apology he knows how to make. My mother and I barely speak. Some people can't afford the mirror, and I've made my peace with that. The store is still open. 6 in the morning, every morning. I'm still paying the note, and I am not a wealthy woman. I'm just the one whose name is over a door that's kept a promise for 50 years. Pop's note is taped to the register, the store stays with whoever opens it every morning. That's the thing about a lineage of lies. It holds together until one person finally tells the truth. And once the truth is on the table, the entire inheritance of false stories collapses under its own weight. They handed me $1 and a smirk. Some kids just don't measure up. Go earn your own. And a tin box I never had to open proved every word of it wrong. If you've ever been the one who stayed while everyone else sent excuses, your presence was never worth less than their money. It was worth everything. Share this with someone who showed up when it counted. Tell me your story in the comments, and subscribe to Lineage of Lies.